Okay, welcome to session 6 of Do Summit Good. Again, another really exciting session. Ines, I'm really very happy to have you on. I'm so happy that you've been able to give some time to come and join us and talk to us about Donate WC.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the invite. I'm very grateful for being here.
You're absolutely welcome. It's our pleasure to have you on. Okay, just as a few quick things before we get started, going to quickly mention, as always, if you're joining us on WP&UP.org/live, to the right of the screen, you've got the hallway track. Feel free to ask any questions, jump in the conversation over there. We will have a live Q&A at the end of this talk. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can then make sure that we get them asked later on through the Q&A. Below the screen, you'll also find a donate button. That donate button will offer you the option to donate via your credit card with Stripe or via PayPal. All donations that come in today through this event are distributed across all of the nonprofits that are featured across this event, Donate WC being one of them. So I'm going to stop talking and introduce you to Ines. Ines. I'm so bad at pronouncing names. I apologize. Nathan, just before, was there anything else that you needed to cover off at all?
No, I'm just looking forward to this one. I've been following Donate WC for probably, well, since I first heard of it, maybe a year ago, and fascinated to see what you've got to say today. So yeah, great.
And again, this session is we're going straight through, so we're not gonna stop after 10 minutes. So I'm going to hand you over, and we'll get started. So thank you very much.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. As per the introduction, my name is Ines. Ines, not Ines. I'm going to do a quick intro and then move on to the talk that I've also done at WordCamp Europe earlier this year. I think the topic was really fitting for this particular event. So first off, I really wanted to thank WP&UP for organizing this, because I'm just really happy to see that there are so many different initiatives happening around the globe to address certain problems that we're having as a community. And I think this is the first time that anything like this has happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just really excited to be here. I'm happy that we're doing this. And I also think that it's important to talk about how we can, lift each other up and create a better place for all of us. So onto Donate WC. This is a foundation that raises funds to help people travel to WordCamps if they don't have the financial funds themselves. And a question that I actually most often get about this is, right, but aren't WordCamp tickets usually very cheap? I mean, it's kept cheap because it allows people to get in if they don't have a lot of money. And then I say, yeah, sure, the tickets are cheap, but traveling to a WordCamp can be a really big blocker, especially if we're looking at developing countries. It's just hard to get that money together to actually pay for the train or pay for the flight or the hotel. For example, when Zimbabwe had a financial crisis in 2017, we helped cover the cost of travel for one of our recipients, because the price of getting on a flight tripled overnight. I don't know if you or anyone you know has the ability to kind of brush that off and go, oh yeah, triple the price, no problem. But these are actual problems that speakers encounter. And it's something that we as a community can actually address. So we've provided quite a few sponsorships for example, women of color in who are looking to speak at WordCamps happening in African communities. This is an area where WordCamps are really starting to emerge, and the community is working very hard on curating a speaker pool that is both good as well as local, which is important. So, we're, as a foundation, very excited to help move that community a bit forward. I think it's important to support local speakers rather than, importing people from outside of the community, as WordCamps are not just good for WordPress as a platform, but also for people's careers. And if you support people in their careers, they can support the rest of their community, and it all kind of flows back into each other. So in 2019, we've issued a total of 10 sponsorships, spending round and about 10,000 euros, all of which is money raised by the WordPress global community, which is, to me, really, really very exciting. As I said, most of these sponsorships have been folks in the African communities, but we've also offered sponsorships in the US, and we're helping out with a couple of sponsorships for WordCamp Asia that's happening at the beginning of 2020. And we're hoping to provide assistance to countries basically all over the world in 2020. We've had some amazing help with this, most notably by Marcel Bootsman, who had his walk to WordCamp Europe. He walked all the way from his home in the Netherlands to Berlin in Germany to raise funds. If you haven't had a chance to see his talk live, I highly recommend looking it up on WordPress TV, because it's emotional and it blew my mind, and it's really, really worth having a look at. And not only just because he did such an amazing job. He raised a little over 8,000 euros, which really helped us keep the lights on, basically, and help other people. And I think what he did really shows the power of the Donate WC Foundation. It shows how a community of individuals can come together and do a thing for someone that they don't know personally, which in my mind is just amazing. And of course, initiatives like the Yoast Diversity Fund are fantastic. I think the more initiatives like those, the better, the more people we can help out. The only problem as such that I see is that with the Yoast Diversity Fund, you have one party, as far as I'm aware, one party covering all of the cost. And if you, as a small business or an individual, want to do something similar, you would have to set up a similar fund, or become a WordCamp sponsor, or sponsor an individual to get where they want to go. And that can get really expensive really very quickly. So what we do with Donate WC is basically allow the community to come together in whichever way they can. So whether it is you donate 5 euros and that's all you can give, or you have a really well funded company and you can donate 5,000 euros, the impact is the same. You can all impact the life of someone else in a very significant way, while still being on your own terms. So our goal for 2020 is to raise 20,000 euros, which sounds like a lot of money, but isn't really. I'll explain that later. Which will allow us, hopefully, to double the number of sponsorships that we can give out. And it will help us grow the attendance at WordCamps of previously underrepresented groups. And honestly, I just wholeheartedly invite you to join this, because it matters. Now, on to the actual talk that I was going to do. Let's start off with this one. Let's start with a story. Back in 2012, I was 22 years old. I had a high school diploma. I had tried a year at university, found that it was absolutely not my thing. I am more of a self-taught person. And I was also the mom of a very young baby and being single. I lived on government assistance because in the middle of a financial crisis, nobody in their right mind will hire a single mom with no formal education. Like it was never going to happen. So honestly, and we had to talk about, mental health in the WordPress space a little earlier today. If we're talking about my iceberg, that moment was definitely like the very bottom of my iceberg. I had very little money to speak of. I had no friends because I'd been living abroad for a couple of years. I had just moved back to the Netherlands, and nobody really wanted to believe that I was a fairly intelligent person because there was no diploma hanging on my wall. And this became a turning point for me. I decided that if nobody else was going to give me the opportunities, that I would just, create them myself. If there's no other way to go, I'll do it myself. I decided to pick up a new skill. I did a course in PHP, and then figured, I have been building websites for myself for a long time. Maybe I could use my new skills to build websites for other people. And I found WordPress along the way. I really liked how it fitted both my needs and my clients' needs, and build out a business that after 9 months allowed me to go to my caseworker and say, hey, I no longer need government assistance. And she said, well, congratulations, while also giving me a look of, I know your type, you'll be back here. But that is now 9 years ago, and I'm very proud to say that I've not been back. I started getting more involved with the WordPress community after this, because I felt that if something affects my livelihood as much, then I want to get involved. I want my voice to be heard. I should be part of the conversation, right? I started contributing to the forums on WordPress.org, which led me to be invited to the Community Summit in Philadelphia in 2016. And all in all, I was looking at a week-long trip because WordCamp US would follow directly after the Community Summit. I had to pay for this out of pocket because nobody would be paying this for me. I was, in my own business and earning my own money. So all of that travel cost would land squarely on my own shoulders. At the time, no grant existed for the Community Summit. So it was really either you have the money to go or you don't go. Now, here's the reason why I'm telling you this, because it does have a reason. My business was doing pretty okay. I was able to keep food on the table and pay all my bills and do all the things. I happen to live in one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, but a week-long trip costs a lot. It cost me about a month's worth of income. It ate up all of the buffer that I had built up for myself very painstakingly. And I had to dive into this experience not knowing if it was going to have a positive effect on my career. I really had to gamble and trust that it would, bring out something that was going to be good for me. So this is an overview of what I guesstimated was my cost. If I look at this now, it's not a lot, but back in the day it was. I was able to afford this, but it meant I had to stay in a hostel about half an hour away from the WordCamp venue. Excuse me. I had to share a room with 2 others. One of them was a guy who would grind his teeth so badly during the night that I only got about 2 hours of sleep every night that I was there. There was no privacy. The shower barely functioned. It really hampered my ability to participate in a lot of the social events surrounding the WordCamp and the summit. So I was there, but it was a struggle. It wasn't easy. It was difficult. At the end of it, I was so tired. I couldn't keep up with normal conversations. It wasn't the greatest experience, but I was there. See the little red arrow pointing to a face? That's me, I swear. My voice was heard during the community summit. I was able to bring my experience to the table. People actually listened, which was a huge kind of high for me. But had I not been invited, but more importantly, had I not been able to afford the trip, that opportunity would have been lost. My voice would not have been heard. I would not have had the same opportunity. And it would not have been heard in a setting that really dictated what the community was going to be doing in the year following the summit. I took the lack of privacy and the little sleep for granted because, honestly, it led to me being at my current job as well. I now work at Automatic, and I no longer have to worry about travel expenses the way I used to. It really is a sharp contrast to how I used to worry about getting there. The community summit really, it stuck with me. It kept nagging at the back of my brain, and I kept thinking, if I was in a position where the cost of traveling was already so high that I could barely afford it, aren't there others, people in a worse off situation than I was? There must be, right? I mean, I had it rough, but surely there are other people who are in similar situations. We're able to set up events that look like WordCamp Europe and WordCamp US. And thanks to the wonderful sponsors who take care of us, we get to eat there at no fee. We are pampered with free swags, and we can go to after parties and hallway tracks, and important conversations happen at these work camps that have a deep impact on how WordPress is going to evolve in the future. Honestly, it's an amazing thing that we're able to pull off. But I keep thinking, whose voices are we missing there? Is it the person who lives in a country where the average wage is a fraction of what we consider normal in first world countries? Or is it the single parent who is struggling to keep food on the table, for whom the price of a WordCamp ticket is already the same as a week's worth of groceries, so they can't miss out on that money? They're not at these events because they can simply not afford to be there. The price is too high. Now, the WordPress community has always thrived on volunteers. We volunteer our time and our expertise, and we share stories and best practices, but we seem to forget that while we all have the same access to the same amount of time to volunteer, money is a completely different issue. There's no global speaker fund that helps people get to WordCamps, not officially anyway, to help them if they can't really afford it. We're becoming, and unintentionally so, exclusive of people who are either poor or less fortunate than we are ourselves. And I say unintentional because I'm convinced that nobody in our community would consciously and knowingly exclude anyone. I've not met a community that's more inclusive or attempting to be as inclusive as we are. I think we're just missing the mark on this specific thing. Because you and I, we may spend the same time preparing a talk. We'll write and we'll polish and we'll practice and we'll make sure that, there's the thing that we're putting up on stage is decent. Volunteering is the same thing. It's a matter of saying, I have time for this. I can contribute in this way. But paying for a flight or paying for a train ticket or paying for gas in your car or a hotel room where you have privacy and a moment to regroup yourself, that's a different thing. Having a safe and decent place to sleep requires cash. It requires money. And you can have all the time in the world, but if you don't have the financial means to pay for those things, you will not be able to do them. So back in 2017, I decided to do something about this. I started the Donate WC Foundation with the aim to help the people who want to contribute to WordPress and volunteer their time, but don't have the financial means to do so, to actually get there. So helping them pay for the trip, basically. So what a sponsorship includes when you get one through Donate WC is you get a sponsorship that covers travel costs. So either flight, train, gas for your car, bus ticket, whatever, a place to sleep that is safe and at a decent walking distance of the venue. We'll pay for your food and even an internet connection should you need one. Now, there are a couple of requirements. Obviously, you need to be either a confirmed speaker or a volunteer at a WordCamp. You need a valid passport and a visa where applicable. And adherence to the code of conduct is also something that's very important because it's going to reflect back on the foundation. We have the requirement of being a speaker or a volunteer purely because then the loop is closed. So we have a situation where the community receives back from that of what it's given, basically. And this all starts by collecting donations, like today. I've always felt that if we can put together funds for events such as WordCamp Europe and WordCamp US, surely we can find or create the funds to help a few people get to the same place as many of us. Now, we found that it takes between 1,000 and 2,000 euros to get someone to a larger WordCamp. To local WordCamps, it's usually a lot less. This can vary depending on where someone is from. But to put that into perspective, WordCamp Europe this year had around 3,000 attendees. If all of them had donated €1, which is basically change in your pocket for most of the people who were there, if all of them donated €1, we could have helped at least 2, if not way more people to basically change their life, to have an opportunity to speak at something, to further their career, to have an opportunity that otherwise would probably not have happened. So the question then becomes, why would we, the privileged, even want this? And I'll tell you. As WordPress grows, we want to make it available in all the languages that we humans speak. I mean, I think there's even a pirate version of WordPress. We want people with disabilities to be able to use the platform. We want the user interface to be intuitive for both senior developers as well as people who are not so comfortable with the technical world. In short, we want WordPress to be as inclusive as we can possibly make it as a platform. Now, in my privileged position, living in a wealthy country with continuous access to the internet, multiple devices on which to access websites, do not know what it's like to build websites in a developing country. I don't. I don't know whether the solutions that I am building work if you do not have access to proper internet, or where the availability of computers is maybe hard to come by. The person who does know this actually lives in that country. They're the ones who are able to tell us this. And that means chances are that the wages this person might earn is nowhere near what I'm making, not even close. And it's certainly not enough to pay for a flight to attend a WordCamp US or Europe or Asia, or even a community summit, which is something where we globally decide, or we make decisions that will affect everyone in the WordPress community. And sometimes it's really just a matter of having to get to the town over to get to your local WordCamp and not having enough money to pay for that transport. We've seen this happen, and these situations exist, and we do not have a solution within the WordPress Foundation. So something I've also heard asked is, I don't want to be paying for someone else's fun. Why should I be paying or donating my money for someone to go and have a party? And that's a fair question, but I do think we need to bring in people who have voices that can tell us how we can bring WordPress further as a platform. I think that trumps the idea of someone getting a free party at some point. We need to bring in people that have a different frame of reference than we do in order to step outside of our own bubble. So instead of seeing the same faces at each WordCamp that I go to, I would really like to hear from the underrepresented groups in our community or outside of it, because we need to know what they need in order to succeed. That's what's going to affect our work at some point in the future. So it's important to us to know what they need. We need them to be able to share their experiences and their options so we can all create an environment that is truly inclusive for everyone and not just for the ones who can afford this. So, what can you do to help? First of all, making a donation with the orange button down below is obviously a really great step, really great first step. And as I mentioned previously, we're looking to raise about 20,000 euros in 2020. So every bit that you can help us with to achieve this is very, very much appreciated. But what we need even more than donations is hands, extra hands. We need people who are good at setting up newsletters, who have a knack for finding the best flights, content writers, or marketing savvy folks. So really, my call to you right now is, if this foundation speaks to you in any way and you have time to volunteer, I'd love to talk to you about getting involved, because you would be very, very, very welcome. And if you are an organizer of a WordCamp, you can do a couple of things. You can make references to our website, donatewc.org, on your WordCamp website or during your event. You can refer speakers to us if you notice that they might be having trouble getting the funds together. You can ask your visitors and your sponsors even to make a small contribution to the Donate WC Foundation. And you can mention us throughout your entire WordCamp to get as many eyes on the foundation as possible, because that helps. It really does. that's it for me for my presentation. Make sure to use that orange button down below, because it has been known to reduce stress and increase joy and make the world a better place. So thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. And we saw there the instant you mentioned the donate button, the donations come in. So it goes to show that obviously as we talk about these things, they work. I think it's a great session. So thank you for everything you're doing to make this happen. I appreciate this is a deeply personal journey for yourself, and obviously this is something I can relate to, and I recognise how much it takes from you personally to be able to continue. So thank you. I really appreciate you doing it.
I have a question around that, and you may or may not wish to answer it. It's entirely up to you. I was wondering how much time, let's say a week, a month, you put into this project.
That's a tricky one. I don't actually track how much time I spend on this. I put in the time as needed. And sometimes it goes down a little bit. Sometimes it goes up a little bit. I had a mental health issue following the birth of my youngest, which put a hold on the entire thing. And this is why I need more people, because if I don't put in the time currently, the whole foundation stops, which is not a good thing. I want this to continue even if I have a sick day, or if I need to take vacation or whatever. So to come back to your question, I honestly don't know, but it's quite a bit.
Yeah. Does it feel like, you're spending a significant amount, perhaps more than you would like, or what? I don't know how to word this correctly, but it's a significant amount.
It's a second job, pretty much.
That's a good way of describing it. Okay, wow, yeah, that is.
I'll be honest. What I hadn't fully appreciated prior to us having a conversation earlier is the fact that it's you're the only individual at the moment that's having to undertake a lot of the work around Donate WC. And actually, I think it was you felt like it was like you're running almost like a travel agency, because you've got the logistics of organising flights and accommodation and so on.
So I have to be honest here. I do have some people who drop in now and again, but the majority of the work lands on my plate. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Could you give us an insight into what that work actually is? So Dan just alluded to, flights and what have you.
Yeah.
Do you kind of get yourself involved in all of that, or do you just siphon the money into somebody's account, or do you help them to actually organize their stay?
We very clearly state in basically everything that we communicate to recipients, we do not transfer money unless we've been presented with an invoice after the WordCamp has happened. So what we do is we determine who gets the sponsorship, and when that's awarded, we work together with the recipient on where do you need to go, so what flight do you need, and then we go in and book the flight. So the only thing that they have to do really is show up at the airport with their passport. So it's booking the flight, it's booking the hotel, it's making sure that if a taxi is needed, that we cover the cost ahead of time, so they don't have to put that up ahead of time. It's a lot of basically being a travel agency.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. And if you've ever booked a holiday, you know how fraught with anxiety and difficulty that can be. Plans change, things go wrong, the flight moves, taxi doesn't show up, and so on. And it goes. Yeah.
Yep. And I don't have any feet on the ground on any of the airports. It's mostly airports, but I don't have any feet on the ground to actually go in and organize things. If something happens, I need to be at least available online to help navigate that.
Sorry, Dan. It's looked
I
like
was
you
just
were
going to
about to
say,
speak.
what's the best way for people to get in contact and if they're interested in getting involved and supporting in some way?
Yeah, you can email at info@donatewc.org.
Mhm.
You can find us on Twitter, donate_WC, or Mother of Code on Twitter. That's my personal handle. Any of those will do the trick.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's say that you're on the other side of the coin and you are not donating on this occasion, but you're wishing to apply. You raised a slide fairly near the beginning about certain criteria and what have you. Might be interesting just to talk around there. So if you're wishing to apply for the fund, are there any kind of minimum criteria that you need to meet? Because there may be people thinking, oh boy, that really sounds like me, or yeah, I don't sound as if I'm fully qualified there. Is it okay to reach out and explain their position with you? Do you have a dialogue with people and work it out? And then finally, sorry, big question. Just wondering what the sort of criteria that you position is. If you've got two competing people or three or whatever it might be, how you get yourself through those difficult decisions.
So what I found is that it is never a straightforward process. Not a single time has it been, oh yeah, of course we're gonna, just give you the sponsorship and be done with it. It is never straightforward. So it's always a discussion and always basically putting things into balance and into, yes, this counts and this doesn't count. And basically what I want to see, what our committee wants to see, is that you have made tangible contributions to the WordPress community. So whether that is by having already spoken, whether that is by I don't know, going to your kid's school and offering a free lesson on how to use WordPress to the kids. That's contributing. That's furthering the WordPress cause. But I want you to describe that. I want you to show to us that you have a heart for the community. It's also possible for other people to nominate others for a sponsorship. So you don't have to apply for yourself. You can also say, hey, listen, I know this person who's been doing all this awesome work, and I know they're not in a great financial place. I really want to submit their application. So that's also a possibility.
Oh, nice. And given obviously that none of us have infinite resources, do you tend to prioritize kind of shorter trips, or do you just take everything on merit? Or let's say for example you could fulfill 5 small journeys maybe within the country or into a neighboring country, or one giant sponsorship. Yeah, again, difficult decisions, I'm sure.
It's difficult, and that's why I need more people to help me make this decision, because it's not fair for me to make that decision on my own with my own frame of reference, because as I mentioned, I come from a wealthy country. I'm white. I might be a woman, but I have all of these privileges that others might not have. So I cannot, from my frame of reference, make all those decisions. It needs more people from different backgrounds to discuss, hey, what do you find important, and how do you feel about this, and how do you apply your frame of reference to this?
I have one final question, if that's all right, and it was about the sort of the if somebody could use it twice, essentially, if somebody's made a submission and been successful, are they able to come back again, or do you ask them to let other people take that chance next time?
Honestly, we've not encountered this, and we've not had we don't have any precedents to rely on with this. So right now I don't know if we would accept this. I think it heavily depends on their situation. I think they would need to come up with a really good reason why. If it's a once in a lifetime thing, if you're I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but I think it needs a good conversation
Mm.
for it to happen twice. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like we just need more people with skin in the game who are interested and willing to help you with the processes and the methods and the techniques, and ultimately people to open their wallet and use that orange donate button and make your life, make you able to help other people, which would be great.
Honestly, if we can come up with, I don't know how much money goes into a WordCamp US, but it's a lot. If we are able as a community to come up with that kind of money, we're definitely able to come up with 20,000 to help out 20 to 40 people. Absolutely. That should not be a problem.
Yeah. There was a conversation earlier during the day where I think it might have been in the round table where they were talking about sponsorships and possibly offering the ability to upgrade your WordCamp ticket. You know, at the point where you've already decided to open your wallet and maybe tick a button and say, I'd like $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever. And I'd like these people to be the recipients of that. And it strikes me that that would be a great place for your logo or your charity name to go, you know.
So discussions around this have already happened. The thing is, WordCamp websites, I'm not entirely sure of the specifics behind it, but I think it's a multi-site network, which means that the WordPress Foundation has the final say in what goes and what doesn't go, in terms of adding a new functionality and having a speaker fund kind of goes against what is in the rules and regulations. So basically, we're not supposed to offer financial compensation for speakers because we're supposed to be donating that time and effort, which I agree with up to a point, and certainly with the point that I made of, you know, we all have that time. We have the same amount of time we can donate, but we don't have the same access to money. So the WordPress Foundation and I differ in opinions on this. And that's where the trouble is for now.
Yeah, sometimes the rules can seem so obtuse. But yeah. Okay.
I get it and I don't get it. It's
yeah. That's exactly where I'm standing. I get it and I don't get it. It's no doubt that rule could be abused in some way. So it's probably got a very valid purpose, but also I can see another valid purpose, which is your purpose. So yeah. Thanks. Unless you've got something, Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to have well, there's a couple of things. First off, what does it look like for somebody to volunteer within Donate WC? What kind of time would people be looking to be dedicating to it?
Entirely up to the role that they pick up. So if you would, for example, do the newsletter, that is something that is a monthly thing that we're looking to set up. How much time do you need a month to curate some content? I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you want to put in like 10 hours a week, that's fine with me, obviously. If you have an hour or two to spare every month, that's cool too, because that offloads some work for me.
Fantastic. And I appreciate you've already mentioned him once already, but I do feel we need to give Marcel another quick shout out. Obviously did fantastic work.
That was
walking to the WordCamp, and has also inspired us with our Head 2 project. So we've got cyclists cycling from Berlin to Porto in Portugal, 3,200 kilometers at the moment. Is the entire distance. Again, to raise money for good entities within the WordPress space. But how was that? I mean, how was that for you as an organizer of an organization? That experience.
I did not expect it to get as emotional as it did. for the people who were there or who have seen the talk, you might have seen me running up stage to give Marcel a hug at some point. I think pretty much everyone in the crowd was crying. It was really touching. And it's, you know, there's so much hatred in the world and so much nastiness going on in the world, and to have someone take a month out of their time and do this thing is, I still don't get why he did it, but I know you're listening, Marcel, and you're awesome. You know it.
Yes.
He did it for the same reason you're doing it, because he's nice.
Yeah.
He's a good person. Yeah.
It's it really is quite incredible the way some humans will give, and that's the way some humans will just open up their heart. I mean, as you said, take a month out of his family life to enable that, to be part of that is really quite something.
It really is.
Yes, yeah. I was actually in on his talk at WordCamp Europe, and yeah, you're absolutely right. There was hardly a dry eye in the room. It really was quite an incredible talk. Okay, well, I think, was there anything else that anybody wants to cover?
I think we should say the URL for Donate WC several more times. That would be good, wouldn't it? So donatewc.org is the URL. And in case you didn't hear that, it was donatewc.org. And I could spell it, but let's say we done it. Yeah, they got it.
And just remember that big orange button down the bottom there. If you make a donation, you're donating to Donate WC, you're donating to WP&UP, you're donating to a whole multitude of for good entities, non-profits within the WordPress space. So please, if you have the ability, or if you know of somebody that might have the ability, do share that wp&up.org/live link with them. Even if they just turn up, open up their wallet and go away again. You know, let's get this message shared, that there's an opportunity to support a whole ream of for good organizations across the WordPress space today through this event. So we're going to wrap up. We're wrapping up a little bit early, but that's probably not a bad thing. We'll grab a 10-minute break and come back. Really excited for the next session. We have got a whole tribe of Give WPers joining us for the next session. It's another round table, so really looking forward to that. That will start at 7 p.m. UTC, so obviously depends on your time zone, but that's 11 minutes from now. So please remember, refresh your browser at 7 or in 11 minutes time, and we will be there with the Give WP team. Ines, thank you so much for giving your time today. We are incredibly grateful for all the work that you're doing within the WordPress space and enabling Donate WC to be a thing within our community.
Yep. So thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
You're very welcome. Speak soon. Take care.
Bye.